Okay, here's a new debunk vid on supposed black Negroid Egyptians. First of all, I'd like to show you that this guy right here he's gonna make a comic book and he's trying to make a comic movie out of it and everything. And some of his art looks okay, but it also looks very non-Negroid in its phenotype, just its coloration pretty much. They even give green eyes to a lot of them and stuff like that. But the header here that's probably cut off just a little bit says, "This man survived endless racist backlash, and no one would make his promote his movie, and he couldn't get any backing. If you think the black community should support this, share this video and comment below. This man is challenging Hollywood whitewashing." And no, he's not actually challenging Hollywood whitewashing. He's challenging the fact that West African primitives didn't even know Egypt existed, and the Egyptians were Caucasians. The Nubians that were around there weren't even let into Egypt, and so on. He's having trouble funding this just the same way Michael Jackson had trouble funding his Remember the Time video, because that would be getting black people to supposedly try to remember a time that never existed for the slaves of the Jewish slave trade weren't even aware that any of the rest of the world existed. People didn't know they existed until right towards the end of it. Herodotus's map back in the day will show you that they didn't even know it existed, and so on. But let's go through this a little bit of his try. By way of another thing to mention, he's teaching this or telling this to a bunch of West African primitives descendants that are here. And so that's a problem, because he's trying to get to them to believe that they were related somehow or something, or that they actually were, rather than being just primitives that ended up being slaves, capturing and selling their own people. But he has a sign up here called Black Sands. And no, the sands of Egypt, that's part of their symbolic coloration. They have the tan sands and the red sands of Egypt there. Now they have the area called Kemet, it's the black soil. So don't can construe the two off. And that is from the spill out of the Nile. And they only named the fertile areas and the farming areas Kemet. And Egypt, of course, is a name given by the Greeks, just like Africa is named after a white man, and white people have named all this stuff. But years later, they get real jealous and come out with all kinds of things. Let's watch this go. Now, they say, and he's winning. And actually, the truth of the fact is, and he's failing, for he's been doing this for years now and hasn't even got 10,000 people behind him, and 9,999 of those are Afrocentrics, and all he can get going is this comic book that he started putting out, that really it's just paying off for the printing of itself. And you can see in the background he's trying to make light-skinned looking Caucasian with also Caucasian hair Egyptians, but to try to get them, the Negroes, to believe their nappy hair was not that maybe they were wearing those jealous Caucasian mimicking hair hats that Mama wears. So he's not winning anything. He was tired of watching all of the movies that come out that show the Caucasian Egyptians, and not something even Arabic, which was what came later. And the admix that they have even makes them darker and lose all of their lighter features they could have even had. But he's tired of looking at that. He wants to have a fantasy dream comic book, like the Wakanda story, where black people somehow weren't over here in this one small area, but they were across the whole Sahara and way up here in the middle of a bunch of Caucasians that were endemic to North and East Africa and all the way through the Horn of Africa at the time, and out, of course. And then the biblical people, which also doesn't have to do with blacks, but just as bad as you hear this Egyptian thing, you hear the "we was the Hebrews." and we were the people of the Bible and all this stuff. And they went on this big 400-year tirade. By the way, they were in the 400 years. I had people say that Black Space God was going to come down and going to enslave all the whiteys, and it was their turn now to do all this stuff and everything. It's terrible. Where'd you get that idea? Oh, out of the Caucasian Bible? Yeah. So there's their idea that it has to be blacks because it's in Africa, and you looked at it and it's on the pinnacle there and around the Mediterranean. There's nothing stopping all the Caucasians from coming around the Mediterranean. They were always endemic to North Africa, and it's pathetic that they try this. But here comes the stupid statement where it was supposedly filled with people who couldn't survive in the desert. And black people try this, and what's sad is they don't seem to remember the fact of the Hyksos, the Persians, Akkadians, Greeks, and then Romans that didn't seem to have any trouble at all, or even the Caucasians that are Arabic but still Caucasians that have no problem today, and that the weather there, especially near the Nile Delta, is more mild than Texas by far, and really it's not so big a deal, but they don't know anything about that. All they do is try to make up lies, and they could get a black person to believe this out of low IQ and low self-esteem and inferiority complex and a desperate want to believe something like this rather than, the truth of the way it is. But see how dark he is? That's pretty close to that Egyptian color. And here I am, an Irish man. Does it show up this time? Yeah, I'm about that same color. I'm actually a little darker than him when you compare it. Hope you can see that. Anyhow, so somehow they couldn't survive in the desert. Well, Negroes can't survive in the desert either. That's the reason they didn't ever come across um, the Sahara and stuff, and very few people can, and it takes special things, and horses couldn't make it across. Of course, that came with the Hyksos. Donkeys don't really have the ability, but what finally could was camels. They're very resilient. They had come from North America. They were around in the Bactrian area from ancient Proto-Indo-Europeans, some of the people you call also Aryans, but they were there and then in India and brought over into Egypt and so on, and hooked up through the Arabic people, and they started the Islamic slave trade 900 years before the Americas were even found. But you don't hear them griping about that, or that 92% of all the ones that did come to the Americas went to South America. It's all a white man bad ploy, but black man good? Well, as we can tell by little things like this, black men have no clue. Black men covet, lie. Black men mad. Black men jealous of the spacemen that lead mankind. So, let's continue. Somehow they can't survive in the desert. I've had them actually think that white people are vampires and that they would catch fire in the desert. And then you go, well, how did they film the movie? Well, shut up, Whitey. And it's like, well, you're the one that had this stupid statement rolling around out of your mouth. How racist of you. Huh, funny. Blacks can be racist? Oh, yeah. Whites are not racist anymore. I mean, we're trying to give them equality and do all these things. What are blacks trying to do? They're trying to lie and be racist. Oh, that's disgusting. They should be the least racist out of anybody after what happened, but they seem to be the most. And it's out of jealousy and an inferiority complex. They see these spacemen and all the things the Caucasians have did, and they want to claim something, so they try to claim it. On this theoretical idea that's so phallic that somehow if it was in Africa, it was Negroes. So as an answer, he created the comic series Kids to Kings. Doesn't say Kangs, it says Kings. But here he shows extremely light-looking Negro with green eyes. This one has brown eyes, but then the girl has green eyes. Now she's finally dark as a regular non-admixed Negro, so they're trying to get a lot of admix go on, his hair and everything, and shaving, and really the phenotype and the face and stuff doesn't look Negro so much, and the lips aren't very large, green eyes and things they're trying to pull off. But and they're telling this to kids, so they're trying to get racist kids to start up, so this is what happens whenever 77-78% of blacks are single households and racist black mothers who have this jealous thing going on too, just as much as the men do, but they raise kids under the idea that you should believe this, that the whole world is a conspiracy, and then it's all meant to hold the West African primitives down. And while they're getting propped up and everything's been done to try to help them just come as equal as they possibly could, but you still have this problem and this cognition and then wanting to steal things and rape and murder, and the amount of that murder too. And people say, well, 56%, so that's just about over half, but they're only 13% of the population, so it's like 5 times the amount. But hold on, it's just males, so that's 6%. So it's like, whoa, it's more than 10%. Now hold on, it's really males between 15 and 45, and so that's about 3.5%. Yeah. But no, that's just to be expected. To be expected from what? Recent West African primitives, or what the hell? The comic sales went through the roof, selling thousands a month, he says. But in reality, I think it's in his whole tenure sold less than 10,000. They may even mention that. But he still couldn't land a publishing deal. Why not? Well, just like Michael Jackson, he had trouble getting Spielberg and those. He tried. They talk about it. He tried to get him to make the Lie show, but they weren't going to lie and try to get West African primitives to believe that they were the Egyptians and sing a song called Remember the Time. That would be disgusting. Years down the road, you might have repercussions where deluded black people start believing all kinds of crazy, foolish things and claim anybody except for West African primitives. Oh, it got an award, did it? But with that success started to be a wave of racist backlash. They call it racist backlash. Of course, anything that discounts their narrative, they always just try to throw a rock at it that says racist on it and see if they can get someone to cuckle off of trying to use their magic word. But it doesn't work anymore, for this whole thing is racist towards everyone else, Egyptians and Caucasian race, the world actually. The funniest we was kings ever seem truly pathetic. Can't have your own culture, gotta steal everyone else's. This show is garbage, historically inaccurate, the creators are racist, and immediately alienate any audience that doesn't share their skin color. Trash. Hold up. So y'all be saying that we was kings and fam? We was kings. We are pharaohs. And yes, and they have in the dialogue of it where they meet up with the white people, and the white people are screwing up and don't know how to do anything right, and they are the ones that tell the white people how to do everything. Isn't that pathetic that they try to put themselves in that position? Well, it is just comic. Then he remembered this quote from the director of Exodus, Kings and Kings. I can't mount a film of this budget where I have to rely on tax rebates in Spain and say that my lead actor is named Mohammed, and so from such and such. That his lead actor is Mohammed so and so from such and such, and I'm not going to get financed. So the question doesn't even come up. Oh, well, this was a question not asked for why he doesn't have Negroids at all. That's pathetic that you mislead. This was the question, why doesn't he get some of the local people there? First of all, Muhammad such and such is not related to the ancient Egyptians directly. And the actors that he chooses are much more closely related to the ancient Egyptians than Muhammad such and such was getting. And of course, in a lot of these roles, we try to put well-known actors. But they even get mad whenever they put in somebody like The Rock. But then they want to claim The Rock is black. But so they get mad about that a little bit. Or any other actors that go with. And of course, The Mummy. And oh, that guy. Well, that guy in The Mummy, the original, Brendan Fraser and stuff, that's pretty much right on the mark. Yeah. So it's just eye makeup and yeah, they're Caucasians, of course. Red ochre, males, and pale females is a Caucasian thing that's all over Greece, Mitanni, Minoans, Etruscans, all over the area. There is no defense for this, and to try to say West African primitives had anything to do with it is far foolish. They actually have more to do with West African primitives, the Eskimos. So it's kind of sad that it goes this way. Now he's raising funds himself to make a feature-length film starring heroes that fit the ancient description. And by raising funds himself, he means begging black people that'll believe his desperate racist lie and give him some money. But actually what's happening is he's trying to live off the money during the time, and he's never going to accrue up enough money to do anything worth of value. But he can string desperate, deluded, racist, lying Negroes along for, oh gosh, how long will this last? I don't know. I picture it's going to last a lot longer than I'm going to even last, and a lot longer than the people that are talking in crap right now. It's going to be a joke on them for generations. Black Sands is the name of the thing. Of course, whenever he shows it, it's called Black Sands. And what is this? This is not black sand. Huh, that's weird. Hey, I went on a black sand beach in Maui. Yeah, it's volcanic black sand beach. It's pretty cool. So now he tries to beg money for his Kickstarter to lie and become racist. Isn't that funny? And the Egyptians are Caucasians. And always were, from the earliest of dynasties. And one simple way is to just look up blue-eyed Egyptians again, and you end up seeing all these blue-eyed statues, and they have these crystal blue eyes, and from the earliest of dynasties. Yeah, from the earliest of dynasties. Yep. And oh man, did they throw a fit when Nefertiti had come out, and they made her look just like this. She looks, a white woman. Well, they didn't give her blue eyes. I don't know why, because she still has one blue eye left. It's that same crystal blue eyes that you see in these. And that's the earliest of dynasties. It's like 4th dynasty, 4th, 5th, 6th. It goes all the way through the 12th dynasty to Hor-Aha, and then she has them also. Something that they rarely used, but people are well versed and they know it. And there again, no fret. 4th dynasty. Isn't that amazing, those crystal blue eyes and that Caucasian? And so whenever we say Negroids were not the Egyptians, they were not. In fact, pre-dynastic Nakata series show these Caucasian with blue eyes as their little effigy statues when they're just getting it going. The Bauderian and Nakata series people show up that. For actually, if we really looked into it, there are ancient blue-eyed people attached with Egypt, Sumeria, India, and Buddha, and Gautama Buddha. Even in the Americas, with moche statues and the gods that were pale-skinned and blue-eyed and had beards, blonde hair. What's up with that? Well, nobody said any of those were Negroids, and they're not. And their usual comeback, well, we were the first men, we made you, you're just albino Negroes and stuff, and no, that's pathetic too. The oldest proto-Negro even found skulls so far as 9100 BC at Iru, and so that's not in effect either. And so we just really have a jealousy problem going on with these non-Egyptian nor biblical Negroids. So that's just one more bang down the drain. Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. On to the next one. Peace.